Every command system had a center. Dara Wynn had built her career on finding it before the clock ran out. She destroyed the vehicle directing the strike, and for less than a breath, the drones went quiet. Then 4 ground teams moved faster. The junction had 6 hours before first light, and Dara had just removed the one thing she believed would stop them. The vehicle burned crooked beside the service track, one rear wheel still turning. Dara watched the people, not the fire. Men who had been checking corners crossed open ground without waiting for another signal. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. A second group broke left through the freight sheds. A third disappeared behind dead tank cars, and the fourth came straight on as if the blast had settled an argument for them. Nobody celebrates. North sheds move, Dara said. Tess went first because she held the cleanest angle. Nessa followed, counting gaps in hostile movement instead of staring at the wreck, while Tobin dragged the team away from the burning chassis and Bram kept Brass close. The drones stopped, but the people didn't, Leo said from the rear. They got faster. That isn't confusion, Nessa added. Dara knew is less than #0. 4# is greater than. If the junction failed, the district lost its last rail route for fuel and medical evacuation. 6 hours separated a hard night from a place that could no longer move. A lamp blinked on the east switching cabinet, but the sharp tone that should have followed never reached her. Dara saw men behind the tank cars shift before the cycle finished and felt the missing sound like a space inside her skull. Second angle, right side. Leo checked once. They're already there. Dust jumped behind Bram. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. He shoved Brass forward and dropped beside a concrete lip, while Tess answered the pressure long enough to make the nearest shapes hesitate. Nessa caught Tobin by the vest as steel sparked where his head had been. Dara heard the impacts wrong, one flat in her right ear and another hard in the left, with no clean distance between them. She filed the mismatch away because the team still needed a decision. Across the cut, 2 at a time, she said. That makes us easy to count, Nessa replied. They counted us before we arrived. Tess and Tobin crossed first. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Leo moved with Bram and Brass, keeping the dog between bodies and away from the open line. Dara went last with Nessa as 2 hostile angles tried to close behind them. The enemy timing stayed clean. No one looked toward the wreck for permission. No hand signal passed between groups, and the ragged pause that should have followed a dead command post never came. They aren't recovering, Leo said when Dara reached cover. They're using the gap. Then the vehicle was real support, not the authority. Useful distinction after we burned it. Keep collecting those. Is less than #0. 3# is greater than. Tobin reached their vehicle and stopped with one hand on the door. Dark fluid spread beneath the front assembly, catching firelight in thin red lines. We're done driving, he said. Can you move it? Downhill, once. Steering would be more of a philosophical question. Nessa glanced under the chassis. So we lost transport and gained sarcasm. I work with what survives. He pulled what they could carry while Bram checked the rear approach and Tess watched the sheds. Nessa counted the 6 humans allowed and ended with Brass, who stood alert beside Leo despite the smoke and vibration. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Dara touched her watch. Greer, we lost transport. Static cleared around Greer Ward's voice. No replacement. No reinforcement inside 4 hours. The eastern corridor is taking pressure. Extraction. Not from your sector. No route opens before first light, so you have what you carried in. They were on foot while 4 enemy groups moved more efficiently than before. Leo looked back at the burning wreck. That vehicle was doing real work. Why did killing it help them? Dara watched one group hold their attention, while another crossed farther north. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. A third vanished entirely, and the last withdrew toward the rail district without panic, because it had already bought something better. Command moved, she said. We find where. That answer still fits. It only has to fit until the next fact breaks it. They left both vehicles and moved between the rails with what they could carry. Steel held the blast in its length, sending faint tremors through Dara's soles, while the enemy stopped, offering easy silhouettes and pressed from a new direction each time. Never enough to trap the team, but always enough to steer it. They want us east, Leo said. He's less than #0. 4# is greater than, or they want us to think that, Tess answered. Nessa adjusted her pack. Same result if we stand here. The clock keeps moving. Dara led them through a freight wall break and down beside an abandoned cable trench. A heavy mechanical pulse rolled under the ground, paused, then came again from beneath the old signal house beyond 2 rusted lines. The brick building showed no lights or movement, yet dust loosened from the trench wall with every pulse. Tobin frowned. Nothing under that house should be drawing that kind of load. Could it be old machinery? Old machinery complains. This is working. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Leo looked at Dara. And loud enough to be found. The tone sat low and full in both ears. Impossible to miss. That much power served a purpose, and maybe the center had not vanished at all. Maybe it had changed rooms. Dara raised one hand, and the team stopped. We check the house. Small element. Everyone else holds outside. The pulse beneath the signal house struck again, deep enough to tremble through Dara's boots. She sent Leo, Brass, and Tobin along the drainage side where brick met dead weeds. While Tess took the north corner, Nessa held the broken freight wall, and Bram watched the track behind them. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than 2 minutes, Dara told Leo. Then you're back. 2 minutes buys an opinion, not an answer. Bring me the useful half. Leo nodded toward the basement steps. Brass checks the entrance. Tobin checks what the building has touched, and nobody turns either one into certainty. That sounds almost personal. It became personal around the third bad assumption. Brass moved with his head low, the lead loose, until they reached the landing. A dirty basement window flickered in rhythm with the machinery below, making the place look occupied because somebody wanted it to. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. A shape passed between freight posts to Dara's right. Tess saw it too. 1 north, Tess said. Hold him out, don't chase. Another shape showed behind Bram and disappeared when he turned. The men around the yard were not defending the house. They were arranging themselves around the people approaching it. Leo, your 2 minutes are getting expensive. They usually do. At the landing, Brass worked the doorway edge, reset, and returned without the hard commitment he showed around concentrated recent movement. Tobin crouched at the lowest step and ran his hand across the rail, door plate, and lower hinge. What do you have? Dara asked. No strong recent human concentration at this entrance, Leo said. Empty. I didn't say empty. Tobin scraped a finger through the dust. Nobody has used these steps enough to disturb the corners, and the door plate is cold. The machinery is running. Something is running, Tobin replied. That does not put people behind the door. The pulse rattled the frame. Dara shifted her attention to the man Tess had contained at the north side. He was no longer trying to enter the yard, only waiting for Leo to take the last 3 steps. Back, Dara said, is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Nobody enters. Leo pulled Brass away at once, and Tobin rose with him. The first impact struck from inside the basement doorway and blasted stale dust across the landing. A second tore brick above Leo's head while human fire came from the rear angle, controlled and ready. Tess, north. Bram, keep the rear open. North is working, Tess replied. Rear wants help. Nessa, take it. Nessa shifted across the freight wall and forced the nearest attacker down long enough for Bram to move. Dara caught Tobin by the shoulder and dragged him through the yard while masonry skipped over the rails. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Leo brought Brass behind them. keeping the dog shielded by his own body. South Gap is narrowing, Bram said. Give it up before it closes. That was already my favorite version. They reached the broken wall without losing anyone. Dara tasted grit and old oil, and her left ear flattened sharp cracks into dull knocks, but she could still see positions and choose from them. Leo checked brass with quick hands. Dog, Dara asked. Fine. Professional opinion of the basement. Mixed. The basement hated us. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Nessa let out one breath that might have become a laugh if the next impact had not hit the wall. Dara moved them through a cut between stacked sleepers while Tess and Bram traded pressure across the yard. The attackers followed only far enough to confirm the entry had failed, then broke away. Behind them, the pulse stopped, the basement light died, and other electronic signatures across the district thinned without a final burst. They're dropping the signals, Leo said. Because we stopped trusting them. Or because the signals finished steering us. Dara looked back at the scarred doorway. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. The power draw had been real enough to anchor a trap, but it had never required a room full of decision-makers. What do we trust now? Tess asked. People who have to move, Dara said. A function can stay behind a wall. A person has to cross ground. Leo glanced toward the working rail district. You're still looking for whoever command moved into. Until behavior gives me a better model. Tobin pointed along the maintenance line. Single mover, east side. A man slipped from behind a relay shed beyond the abandoned signal network. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. He carried no visible transmitter and kept pace with the machinery corridor. Fast, but not fleeing, while another man shadowed him at distance. He's checking time, Tess said. The first man looked at his watch and shortened his stride to match a passing maintenance cart. Scheduled exchange, Leo said. Or he really hates being early. Dara checked her own watch. Nessa and Bram take custody if we get him. Tess stays with me. Leo keeps Brass and Tobin outside the capture lane. Alive? Tess asked. Alive. We need the person, not another dead function. The courier crossed the next gap without looking back. His guard did. Dara rose. We take him alive. We take him alive. The courier kept a clipped pace through the machinery corridor, stepping over cables and between maintenance carts as if the schedule mattered more than the danger behind him. His guard shadowed him from farther back, never closing and never drifting away. Tess, inside line with me, Dara said. Nessa and Bram prepare custody. Leo, keep Brass and Tobin outside the capture lane. Bram watched the guard. If his escort breaks toward us, separate them. The courier keeps breathing. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. That answer always adds work, Nessa said. It also adds options. Belts turned overhead, chains slapped against guides, and a suspended panel crossed Dara's view before another opened the corridor for less than a second. The courier checked his watch and adjusted his speed to the machinery. Timed exchange, Tess said. He is matching the carts. Then we take him before the next clean gap. Guard first. Break the cover. Keep both men alive if they let us. The distinction costs speed, but a dead courier would stop moving and tell them nothing. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than a living one would burden 6 people already on foot. Dara had chosen that cost. The guard saw Bram through the machinery and moved toward the courier. Change, Bram warned. Escort is closing. A sharp impact rang behind Dara, and she turned toward empty steel. Tess caught her sleeve. Right, not left. Dara corrected without argument. The sound had reached her late after bouncing through the machinery, while Tess had seen the guard's shoulders turn. The courier finally looked back, irritation crossing his face before fear. He knows the window is closing, Tess said. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than, then let's close it first. The guard shoved through the next gap. Tess met him between two machines, and their weight struck the steel frame hard enough to shake dust from the upper rail. Dara saw the courier reach beneath his jacket and drove forward before the motion settled. "Hands where I can see them." He twisted and nearly dragged her into a passing cart. Nessa caught his other arm and turned the struggle away from the machinery. "Alive," Dara reminded her. "I heard you. He's making it unpopular." Bram closed behind them. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than." The guard broke away from Tess with one last burst, but she redirected him into a parked loader. He slid down, breathing, one hand still trying to work. "Escort is out," Tess said. "Not dead. Take the corridor." The courier stared at the exchange point rather than the man who had covered him. Bram controlled his arms while Nessa removed what he could reach. A plain laminated strip came free with his outer layer, worn at the edge from ordinary use. "Local assignment," Dara said. "Shared change field is blank." "Can he alter the target?" Bram asked. Dara looked at the courier. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Can you?" "No." "Can you change your cell's work?" "My assignment." "Not the shared target." "No." "Who can?" His jaw tightened, but the question seemed to sit beyond the authority he understood himself to possess. Bram took the strip. "Want me to keep it?" "Keep it with him. It proves his limit, not the answer." "Wasn't planning to worship the laminate." Nessa watched the captive's eyes return to the exchange point. "You missed something important." He said nothing. "The silence is convincing," she added. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than." "It only confirms that he dislikes the question," Leo said, as he brought Brass and Tobin forward. Dara nodded toward the exchange point. "His timing tells us more than the strip." Tobin checked the route and pointed past a sign half covered in grime. "Switching hall access is beyond that rise. Fallback lane runs beside it." "Any reason to care about the hall?" Dara asked. "Only if you enjoy old switching equipment and bad ventilation." Noted with appropriate excitement. The courier never looked toward the hall. Dara marked it as geography, and nothing more. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. They started forward, with the captive between Bram and Nessa. Every doorway took longer. Every crossing required another body to watch him, and his missed exchange was already becoming information for the cells. The courier's watch alarm buzzed once. He stopped. Bram drove him forward. "Keep moving." The captive looked toward the viaduct, where the maintenance route crossed the lower yard. A light flashed beneath the far end, and another answered from the opposite approach. "Contact change," Tess said. Figures broke from cover on both sides. "They're coming for him," Nessa asked. "Is less than #0. 3# is greater than no," Dara replied. "They're taking the routes around us." The first blow struck a viaduct support with a dull force that traveled through the rails before the sound reached her. Ballast jumped beneath their boots. Another impact came farther along the span, and human movement appeared on the upper approach. Tobin looked up at the steel. "They aren't waiting for failure. They're using the strain to split us." "Read the span," Dara said. "Bram, keep the prisoner. Everyone else moves before the open approach closes." The viaduct groaned above them. "Is less than #0. 5# is greater than men appeared at both ends, and Dara pushed the team toward the only route still available. The viaduct shook again, before Dara reached the first support. Men moved above the rail line and along the lower service road, using each impact to hide another shift while rust and grit fell around the pier. "Tobin," Dara called. He pressed one hand against the support. "West Walk is going. Not yet, but soon." "How long?" "Less than you want and more than they need." Nessa held the open approach. 2 below, at least 1 above. "Tess, confirm the east stair." Tess leaned past the pier and returned. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than stair is open. Landing isn't. One man has the rail. Keep him off it. Bram, move the prisoner, when Tobin calls. Bram hauled the courier upright. You walk, or I carry you badly. Another impact traveled through the span. The west side dropped a fraction, and ballast rolled toward the lower edge. East stair, Tobin said, before the load shifts again. Dara sent Tess first and Nessa behind her, then Bram with the courier. The attackers closed as soon as the order became visible. They're reading the split, Leo said. Dara ordered them to delay the visible split. In is less than #0. 4# is greater than. The stair narrowed between bent rail and broken concrete. Tess reached the landing and held it while Nessa shoved the courier upward. Dara stayed below with Leo, Brass, and Tobin, watching 2 men on the upper level separate.
One presses the stair, Dara said. The other wants the support. I see him, Tobin replied. I need 3 seconds. You have 2. Tobin crossed rolling ballast as another impact jolted the stair. His lower leg trapped against the edge while his weight went the other way, and the sound he made was short and furious. Dara caught his vest. Can you stand? He tried once. Not on that leg. Don't test it again, Nessa called. I already paid for the answer. A man appeared through the dust, using the broken sightline to close from the west. Dara forced him back long enough for Leo to drag Tobin clear. Brass strained once, then reset beside Leo in the churned air. Nothing stable for him here, Leo said. Then he stays with you. Dara looked from Tobin to the stair. 1 injured man, 1 captive, 6 people on foot, and a structure being used against their timing. The arithmetic had become physical. Bram, take Tobin and the courier to the fallback lane by switching hall. That leaves you without rear comms. Dara had already counted that loss. Tobin's face had gone pale, but his voice stayed level. Sulkark has a district line. I can pass route status from there. You can do that without standing. Most radios remain judgmental but flexible. Nessa looked down. His leg is finished for field movement. I know. Say the whole order, then. Dara hated the request because Nessa was right. Bram takes Tobin and the courier to fall back, and they stay there. The active line is me, Leo, Nessa, Tess, and Brass. Bram nodded. Clear. The captive stays alive and misses his exchange. That is offensive work, not a rescue detour. Bram accepted the second part as well. Leo took Tobin's other side long enough to get them moving. The courier watched the team divide and offered no help. And after the handoff, Bram asked, we keep pressure on whoever exposed the viaduct. The answer came too easily. Dara had decided each half could survive its uncertainty because the other half needed her more. Her private rule had always sounded like protection, but here it looked like isolation with better wording. Leo saw the pause. You're sending them where they can still work. Dara held to the order. It isn't the part you're arguing with. Dara looked at him. Move Tobin. He did, but the exchange stayed between them. Before stacked rail sections blocked the fallback party from view, Tobin looked back. West walk is finished. East support holds for now. Don't come back under it. Bram's voice reached Dara once. 3 moving, courier secure, fallback in sight. Continue report, only if the route changes. No recovery plan followed. Tobin had given them a route that still served the mission, and Bram had closed the custody problem without pretending either man would return. Dara climbed with Leo behind her and Brass between them. Nessa and Tess had cleared the landing. North Lane is withdrawing, Tess said. Not running, they want us to follow. Then we follow far enough to learn what they preserved. At the repair sheds, the wind died and dust hung without drifting. Brass slowed in the blocked air until a broken gap opened toward the yard. then worked the edge of one passage and returned to the strip with more purpose. Fresher concentration through that lane, Leo said. Mixed traffic, direction is useful, the rest isn't. How recent? I can't give you a clock. Whose path? I can't give you a person. Tess watched the dark passage. So we have a route and another argument. Dara started forward. Show me the useful half. Show me the useful half. Leo let Brass work the passage once more. The dog checked the same narrow strip, reset, and returned with firmer purpose than he had shown beneath the viaduct. Fresher passage through this lane, Leo said. Mixed with older traffic. Can you give me direction? This direction. I can't give you the people or the hour. That is enough. No, it is what we have. Dara watched 4 repair sheds standing around service lanes and hot steel shadows. Tess held the left edge, Nessa covered the rear, and the missing weight of Bram and Tobin left no rear communicator to catch what they overlooked. Lane can be real and still be prepared, Nessa said. I know. Do you? Leo glanced at her. That may be the current dispute. Dara entered first. Dust held too many prints to separate, and heat breathed from the metal walls. A hostile shoulder appeared beyond the second shed, vanished, then showed farther back. Another man crossed the opposite lane without hiding his destination, offering movement around something worth following. Tess, right side. Nessa, hold the cut. Leo, keep Brass behind the fight. They want us in, Nessa said. They also need the lane. Both can be true. Dara knew, and went anyway. The hammer operators gave ground in measured pieces. One held long enough for another to move around the unique carrier under a low roof. 2 men protected its withdrawal, while 2 others exposed themselves to keep Dara's attention forward. Carrier in the rear bay, Tess said. Protected pair moving with it. Which pair? 2 men who haven't spent a second helping the front. Leo stayed back with Brass. One of them keeps looking at you, not the carrier. Dara found the watcher in the rear opening, body turned toward escape while his attention stayed on her decisions. He is measuring the response, Leo said. Then give him the wrong one. What is the wrong one? Dara changed the approach before the second angle closed. Tess crossed through dust and struck the exposed pair from the side, while Nessa moved with Dara. The protected men never returned for their front line. They kept the carrier moving deeper. One exposed operator shouted, "We agreed." No one answered him. The fight broke across the lane. Dara drove one operator away from the carrier route while Tess cut off his return. The second saw the protected withdrawal closing and turned on Nessa. Nessa, left side. I see him. The man reached her before she cleared the support. Nessa absorbed the collision and drove him away, but her left shoulder struck steel hard enough to empty her lungs. She stays upright as the arm dropped close to her body. Capacity? Dara asked. Right side works. Left shoulder doesn't like weight, climbing, or long arguments. Can you move? I'm moving. Don't turn that into full capacity. Tess forced the first hammer operator down. Dara stopped the second before he could reach the withdrawal, leaving 2 hostile bodies unable to continue. The watcher never stepped forward. He saw Dara commit toward the apparent weight, saw Tess follow the exposed operators, and saw Nessa's roll narrow. Then he vanished with the carrier and the other protected man. Leo joined Dara when the lane cleared. They kept the capability and the people around it. They lost 2 operators. And learned what you chase. They watched all of us. No, they watched what you treated as the center. The line fit too neatly. Hammer had preserved something important, but its observers had also taken her measure. Nessa tested her left arm once and stopped. Say it clean, Dara told her. I can cover, move, and work outside. No heavy 2-handed load, no fast climb, and no prolonged close fight. You're still in. I'm telling you, What in means? Dara held her gaze. Outer work until you say otherwise. You choose the position that fits the shoulder. That is clearer. Tess checked the shed mouths. Do we follow the carrier? Blind. Leo looked back along Brass's route. The path got us to real people. It did not tell us what they wanted after we arrived. Dara glanced at the dog. His part ends there. Exactly. The local win had cost Hammer 2 operators and left Nessa with less capacity. It had also shown the enemy how Dara pursued whatever looked central. A man stepped into the open beyond the far fence, where no competent survivor should have stood. He checked both exits before looking toward Dara while hostile movement continued elsewhere. He is making himself available, Tess said. Who is he? Nessa asked. Lyo's answer stayed flat. Someone who wants Dara to decide that. The man turned enough for her to see his face. Oleg Sen had not been found. He had presented himself. Capture? Tess asked. Dara watched him wait. Close enough to talk, not close enough to trust. Keep our way out. Oleg stood between 2 steel service frames, close enough to tempt a capture and far enough to make every approach expensive. He checked both exits before looking at Dara, turning the exposure into a choice she was supposed to make. Tess, keep our way out, Dara said. Leo, rear with Brass. Nessa's outside pressure only. Nessa kept her left arm close. I know my limits. I need you to keep them. That part is usually harder. Dara moved before Oleg could withdraw. He gave ground into a constrained lane, never fast and never panicked, while machinery noise passed overhead in waves that left breath and boot movement briefly exposed. Oleg glanced toward the repair sheds. Your people keep choosing the obvious wait. Call the others off. They aren't mine to call. Tell Sable to retreat. I can speak for my work, not theirs. Movement beyond him supported the limit. Hostile figures crossed distant lanes, each working a separate problem. None turned toward Oleg or rushed to protect him. Other cells are maintaining their routes, Tess said from the exit. Or pretending not to care, Dara answered. Lyo watched the rear. Either way, they are not changing for him. Dara still read discipline around a central man. If she took Oleg alive, the shape would have to reveal itself. She closed the distance, and the lane came alive. A broad-shouldered sable man, with a pale strip across his jacket, pressed from Dara's left as Oleg shifted right. Farther back, a lean man beside the upper frame began directing local movement with short gestures. Tess, exit stays open. It is trying to become a wall. Nessa, hold the mouth, do not enter the lane. Nessa stepped in once to stop the pale striped man from closing on Dara. Her injured shoulder shortened her reach and forced her back. Inside is gone, she said. I can hold the mouth. Take it. The lean man changed the local pattern without looking to Oleg, sending one operator toward Tess and the pale striped man across Dara's support angle. The lean man has the cell, Leo said. Temporary control. Control all the same. Dara caught Oleg's jacket and drove him against the steel. The impact traveled through her shoulder and jaw, but she kept hold. Tell them to retreat. Oleg's breath roughened. Our work continues. Change the target. Not mine alone. Then name who can. He looked at her with recognition rather than defiance. You still want one person. The pale striped man came from Dara's left. She shifted Oleg between them, forcing the operator to hesitate, but the lean alternate moved the cell toward the exit instead of toward Oleg. They're abandoning you, Dara said. No, they are preserving the cell. His danger had not become their emergency. Another man was already carrying the local fight. A high metallic warning snapped above the lane. Dara saw Oleg react before she heard anything and turned toward the wrong side. His eyes caught the mistake. Oleg shifted his weight and drove her into the steel. Her right ear received the impact as a flat blow, while the left filled with thin ringing that swallowed Tess's warning. The pale striped man came behind him. Dara turned late, caught the movement, and redirected him into the lane where Tess met the pressure. He struck the lower frame and went down, unable to continue. "Striped man is out," Tess called. Alternate, still directing. The lean man pushed the remaining sable pressure toward the exit, opening Oleg's route while preserving the cell's movement. Dara lunged after him. Pain cut through her ribs and shortened her breath. Oleg looked back once, only measuring. He had seen which sound she missed and which ear she trusted. "Dara, break off," Leo said. "Exit is closing." "I have him." "You had him." Nessa could not sustain close support. Tess had to protect the withdrawal, and Leo held the rear with Brass. Dara had narrowed the capture onto herself again. Oleg crossed the far opening and disappeared. They withdrew before the alternate sealed the lane. Tess kept the exit open. Nessa covered from outside, and Leo brought Brass through without asking the dog to solve what human behavior had already shown. Dara leaned against steel until her balance returned. Her ribs hurt when she inhaled. Voices reached the right side badly, while the left carried a high tone without distance. Leo stops it in front of her. "You turned the wrong way." "I know." Olskal saw it. "I know that too." "He will use it again." "Then I adjust." "You said that before you followed him into the lane." Dara looked past him. Sable continued under the lean alternate's direction, while the other cells remained active elsewhere. "Removing Oleg would not have erased Sable," she said. "No. It proves local succession. It proves your old answer is not enough." She let the correction stand. The clean model was dead, though the larger one had not replaced it yet. "Recall, we regroup." Leo watched a hostile element beyond the repair sheds. It had refused an exposed advantage after Oleg's escape, and now held beneath intermittent machinery cover. "Leo, I heard you. Then move." Watch changed behavior when Oleg went down. "We don't know why. That is why I am staying with it. Return now." Leo adjusted Brass's position without breaking sight of the waiting cell. "I will keep the line open, but I am not leaving this pattern because you want the uncertainty behind us." Tess glanced between them. "Decision." Dara felt the rupture become physical. Leo was already moving, and stopping him would require force or an order the team no longer believed she had earned. "Keep him visible," she told Tess. Leo followed the waiting cell before Dara could make the recall mean more. Leo moved after the waiting watch element, with Brass close and Tess sliding along the opposite edge. Dara followed under controlled anger rather than call him a traitor for refusing an order she had not earned him to trust. "Nessa, stay with me," Dara said. "Tess, keep Leo in sight." "He already has me in sight," Tess replied. "That may be the problem." Watch had passed up an exposed lane after Oleg vanished. Now it held inside, a pocket of stopped machinery, where a dropped stone would have sounded deliberate. Nessa kept her left arm pinned close, and Dara crouched behind a dead motor housing with her ribs pulling at every breath. Brass worked one narrow strip beside the wall, reset and returned to it. Leo checked the time. "Repeated recent passage in the same contained space," he whispered. "That tells me traffic returned here, not why. Can it tell you how long they held?" "No, the clock is mine, not his." A watch operator shifted near a broken screen and looked back along their route. Tess froze with one knee in dust. Dara pressed Nessa deeper behind the housing while Leo drew Brass into shadow. The operator listened. Dara heard her pulse through the better side of her head and the thin ringing through the other. The man stepped toward them. Then machinery coughed to lie farther off and covered Leo's retreat into a lower lane. When he turned away, Tess moved first. "Your recall window is gone." she murmured. I noticed. Are we still following his judgment? Until the evidence breaks it. Watch did not move. Leo kept time while the machine cycled. The first runner arrived from the north service lanes, touched the waiting element, and left by a different route. 7 minutes since they ignored the open lane, Leo said. First physical contact. Resupply. Could be. Warning? Could be. You are unusually agreeable. I am trying not to outrun the evidence. 7 minutes later, a second runner came from the rail yard. Tess caught the approach through a slit between stacked panels. Different sector, she said. Entered from the west, left north. Watch still did not move. Nessa glanced at Dara. 2 contacts and no local action. That is expensive waiting. Unless the waiting is the action. A hostile shape appeared behind Leo. He saw the shadow cross the dust and pulled Brass down beside him. Tess shifted toward the guard's outer view, giving him a cleaner movement to follow. He is taking me, Tess whispered. Keep walking. Do not make it look generous. Tess crossed the gap, drawing the guard far enough for Leo to slide behind a steel frame. Dara pulled Nessa through a second opening, but Nessa's restricted reach made the move slow and her shoulder brushed metal. The guard stopped. Dara heard his boot drag only in her right ear. She could not place his distance from Leo without exposing Nessa. Leo, do not move. Dara obeyed. The guard turned back when the machinery started again. The team survived because she had taken Leo's bounded call without rechecking the space. Tess returned by another lane. Your observer nearly became the observed. I am touched by your concern, Leo said. You should be. It was almost physical. The third runner arrived from the last external sector without visible urgency. Watch accepted the contact, and only then did the entire element shift. One man rose, another checked the lane, and the long stillness ended in the same breath. Leo looked at Dara. They waited for 3 physical contacts. They moved after the third. He stopped there. The courier had been able to alter only his own assignment. Ola could not call other cells away, and Sable had continued under another man while he was trapped. Watch had refused a local advantage until runners arrived from 3 other sectors. Dara's old model searched for a hidden person above them, but the behavior offered 4 structures that could replace individuals without replacing one another. Each cell can replace a man, none can replace another cell. To change the strike, all 4 have to be represented in the same place. Nessa watched Watch disappear through the machinery lanes. Then, stop hunting the loudest person. We make the old plan impossible, Dara said. That forces all 4 cells to revise it. Leo waited. Dara pointed toward the outer route. You own the next bounded call. Which capability keeps the original strike alive? Hammer's carrier. Unique function, protected crew, authority pair still active. She accepted the judgment without asking him to prove it again. Then, that is the target. Bram met them at the outer route long enough to take Brass and the lead. Dog stays with me, Bram said. Tobin has the district line. Courier is secure. Brass is finished in the active line, Leo replied. The dog went with Bram because his work was done. 4 people remained, Dara, Leo, Nessa, and Tess. Dara checked the shrinking clock. Neutralize the carrier. The authority pair will escape when we choose the capability over them, but the old strike dies with the machine. Make them need the same room. Tess struck the carrier's forward path before its crew could clear the service lane. The heavy machine lurched sideways, grinding against the broken edge while dust rolled over Dara's boots. 1 crewman stayed with the controls. The second turned on Tess before she crossed the open strip. Leo rear lanes, Dara said. Tess, keep the crew off the carrier. Nessa, choose your edge. Nessa looked at the narrow center and shook her head. Outer route. My left shoulder will not survive the middle. Take it. Stop anyone widening the fight. I can do that. The carrier strained against the obstruction, while the hammer representative and alternate withdrew behind it, preserving distance and leaving 2 crewmen committed to the capability. Authority pair is moving east, Leo said. They have a clean lane. Dara saw the fork. 4 people could chase the pair or finish the carrier, not both. If she pursued authority, the heavy strike function survived, and the original plan remained possible. Tess, stay on the crew, she said. We choose the carrier. That gives the pair the lane. I know the cost. Dara moved toward the machine rather than the faces leaving it. For once, she attacked what the plan could not survive. Hammer defended the carrier with disciplined pressure. The first crewman used the machine's bulk to keep Dara and Tess apart, while the second drove toward Nessa's outer route, trying to create room for recovery. Outer lane is mine, Nessa said. Do not pull me inside. Your call. Nessa gave ground once and reset where her right side could work without pretending the left arm had returned. She forced the second crewman away from the withdrawal route, but he kept circling toward the machine. Leo caught movement behind the sheds. Representative and alternate are still going. They are not turning for the crew. Do not chase, Dara said. The carrier is the plan. A hammer voice carried from the retreating pair. Finish the contract or lose future access. Tess heard it. Crew keeps the carrier alive. The pair keeps the cell alive. Break the first function. The crew adjusted. One drew Tess away, while the other tried to bring the carrier back onto its intended line. Dara had only flashes through the dust, but the team no longer waited for her to verify every piece. Rear angle is closing, Leo called. Own it. I already do. He stopped a hammer defender from reaching Nessa's outer side. Tess returned pressure to the carrier without waiting for a second command, and Nessa kept the crew from escaping wide. 4 decisions moved toward one objective without becoming 4 copies of Dara. The carrier recovered a fraction, then stalled. Its weight traveled through the ground as a vibration Dara could feel more reliably than she could hear. Crew is trying to reset it, Tess said. Do not let them buy the line. The first crewman broke from the machine and drove at Tess. Their collision carried them against hot steel. Tess turned him away from the controls and held him there long enough for Dara to close. He kept fighting for the carrier instead of the safer exit. Dara stopped his return, and he went down, unable to continue. 1 crew out, Tess said. Second moving outer. Nessa saw him first. He is coming through my side. Can you hold? For a few seconds. That is all we have. The second crewman hit the outer route hard enough to push Nessa back. She protected the injured shoulder, worked from her right side, and made him spend time getting past her. Leo reached the lane before he cleared it, and the struggle ended with the man on the ground. Second crew out. The carrier settled against the broken lane and stopped. Dara put one hand on the warm steel, feeling dead weight where the heavy strike function had been. Pair, she asked. Gone east, Tess said. We cannot reach them without abandoning this position. That was the fork. Nessa held her left arm close. They did not escape because we spared them. No, they escaped because we had 4 bodies and 2 necessary problems. The local success exposed them. Human movement widened around the yard as 13 surviving opponents reacted to the loss. Greer answered through static. Reinforcement window is closed, extraction closed with it. Understood. I am not ordering withdrawal. I am telling you what no longer exists. Time. Leo checked his watch. 55 minutes. A reduced target is still reachable, Greer said. Keeping the contract alive preserves their bond and future access. A hostile voice carried from a distant lane. Alternate target, same clock. The movement confirmed the motive. Aborting cost more than revising, and a reduced strike could still cut the junction's remaining transfer capacity. They are not leaving, Nessa said. They are reorganizing. The cells advertised urgency in separate directions. One drove east through the rail cuts, another pushed south in noisy bursts, Gate pressed aggressively on the outer routes, and Watch moved with measured restraint. Tess wiped dust from her mouth. Which convergence is real? None we can prove yet, Leo said. Dara looked across the district. Every decoy moved because movement wanted attention. The real decision point would protect stillness behind outward-facing bodies. Ignore the loudest movement, she said. Find the stillness they are protecting. The false movements competed for attention. Men crossed the east rail cut in pairs and broke apart beneath warehouse lights, while another group pushed south through maintenance lanes, kicking steel and calling just loudly enough to make distance feel urgent. East wants us looking, Tess said. South wants us chasing, Nessa added. Dara kept moving between them. Every breath pulled at her ribs, and her hearing divided the district into an unreliable field. Right-side impacts arrived flat, high tones vanished behind the left-side whine, and sound no longer told her where to look without help. 55 minutes became 48, Leo said. Then we do not test every decoy. The real meeting should cost them quiet, he replied. Not silence, protection. They followed the repair sheds rather than the loud routes. Leo stopped beside a rail seam, lowered one hand to the steel, and watched the still corridor beyond the freight wall. What do you have? East keeps crossing open joints, and south is striking loose material. That corridor is carrying enclosed movement. People? Probably. I cannot tell you how many or what they are doing. Somebody is entering without using the routes that advertise it. Tess shifted to a gap between stacked panels. Two men crossed behind the quiet line. One went inward and one turned back toward us. Nessa moved along the outer wall with her bad shoulder protected from the steel. She returned with dust on one knee. West Access has another man facing out, she said. He is keeping people away from the space behind him. Dara's looked from the rail seam to the outward-facing guards. Lai had a bounded material comparison. Tess had seen inward movement, and Nessa had confirmed the physical protection around the quiet space. Switching hall, Dara said. The place Tobin mentioned before the viaduct, Tess asked. The same access Bram used for fallback, Nessa said. Leo nodded. Multiple approaches and thick walls. It fits, but that is not proof. It is enough to close the distance. They moved toward the west approach. The hall remained ordinary from outside. Its importance existed in how people protected the quiet around it. A guard found them before Dara finished the first count. He came through a side cut, saw Leo nearest the rail seam, and drove pressure toward him as a second guard appeared at the opposite access. Tess, with me, Nessa, hold the cleaner route. Cleaner route is getting crowded. Leo lost the rail position when the first guard forced him toward the lower service trench. The field unit clipped to his vest, struck steel, and skidded beyond the hostile line. Equipment is gone, he called. Hand? Working, position is the problem. The guards kept him below the main approach, cut off from Dara's view. Her left ear gave her only a bright hiss from that side. Leo, do you still hold the call? Still the hall, bounded, not certain. Dara could not verify the far access without exposing Nessa and losing the west line. Tess rejoined her through a narrow gap. 4 at the outer structure, 2 holding doors, 2 moved inside. Nessa checked the west access. 3 more came through the rear, 1 stayed outside facing us. 7 at her inside, Dara said. And 5 still running the false movements, Tess replied. 1 unplaced. Leo's voice came from the trench. If I am wrong, we spend the last window on the wrong room. If you are right and I wait for certainty, they finish before we move. That is the choice. Dara looked at Tess. Reconnect with the south side and keep Leo in voice range. I can reach his route, not his equipment. That is enough. She turned to Nessa. Can the west access carry another arrival without crossing us? Yes. Rear lane enters behind the outer guard. I can see the last 10 yards. Dara accepted the incomplete picture. We commit to the hall. Nessa nodded. About time Trust became operational. The 8th man arrived alone from the north lane. The nearest outer guard screened his crossing, then turned back toward the district while the newcomer entered, switching hall. Last one is in, Nessa said. Dara rebuilt the count once because it changed the assault decision. 4 representatives and 4 guards at the hall, with 5 hostile operators maintaining false movements and outer routes. Leo climbed from the trench on the south side, missing the field unit but otherwise intact. 4 of us, Tess said. 8 of them. Before the outer 5 return, Nessa added. Through the hall door, Dara saw the 4 inward figures take separate positions around the central work floor while guards held the approaches. Brief acknowledgments from one representative to the next. The 4th just arrived, Leo said. I see him. He is starting. A guard shifted to seal the west door. Another checked the south lane and nearly caught Leo in the open. Tess pressed Dara lower, while Nessa touched the wall with her right hand. Rear access is closing. Inside, 3 acknowledgments passed. The 4th man raised his hand. Dara looked at Leo. Your call still holds. Enough to act, not enough to promise. That is what I asked for. 4 friendly operators had to attack 8 competent opponents before the raised hand came down. The 4th hand never came down. Crossed the threshold, while the acknowledgment remained unfinished. Tess beside her, Nessa holding the west angle, and Leo entering from the south. 8 hostile bodies reacted at once. 4 representatives broke from the center, while 4 guards turned toward the doors. West guard is mine, do not pull me inside, Nessa said. Keep gate from reconnecting with the strike. Tess drove into the nearest guard before he closed Dara's lane. Their weight struck a steel frame, and she forced him away from the center. Move, Dara, I have the door. Leo cut across the south side as another guard tried to seal it. Second guard south, Tess warned. He is trying to close Leo out. Hammer east, Leo called. Watch is holding center. Gate is taking west with a guard, and Alec is moving on Dara. The hall filled with broken sightlines. Dara heard one collision clearly, missed the next, and read another from Tess's movement. Oleg shifted left, then entered from the dead space on her right. A high warning snapped behind Dara. She turned the wrong ear and found him already inside her balance. He drove her into a steel post, folding her ribs around the impact and filling the left side with ringing. Tess. I am here. Tess moved between Dara and a guard closing from the center, holding the pressure long enough for Dara to regain her feet. You keep Oleg, I keep the lane. Oleg broke toward the south opening, expecting Dara to follow the larger shadow near the west door. Leo saw the choice from below. South of you 2 steps, Oleg not the guard. Dara could not verify the call through sound. She trusted Leo, changed course, and found Oleg cutting across the near lane. Across the hall, Gate and 1 guard pressed Nessa toward the west route. She gave ground because her left shoulder could not hold a direct collision, then reset with her right side between them and the outer lane. I cannot stop both. Delay Gate, the guard chooses his own mistake. That is not comforting. It is not meant to be. Nessa forced Gate wide around a steel support. The guard tried to clear her, but she kept Gate from reaching the direct route toward the alternate teams. Hammer reached a safer northern exit and looked through it. He has a clean north exit, Leo said. He is turning back toward the Courier route. Courier is gone, Tess shouted. Hammer kept moving east. He chose the capability, Leo said. A guard shifted to cover Hammer. Lio blocked him, forcing Hammer through the narrower route by the outer frame. East route is closing. Hammer shoved through anyway. Tess denied him the clean opening when he could still have turned north, but he drove toward the carrier route again. Oleg caught Dara's sleeve and pulled her back into the center. "Your cell is finished," she told him. "A cell is not one man." "I learned that." He struck steel on Dara's left, trying to pull her attention toward the ringing while his body moved right. "Right shoulder," Leo called. Dara followed the call instead of the noise. She caught Oleg's real movement, turned him away from the south opening, and drove him down against the lower frame. He fought to rise, but Tess's protection had left Dara enough space to break the escape. "Oleg is contained." "Keep him there," Nessa called. "Gate is moving." Hammer reached the east route while Tess held the safer opening, and Lio kept the supporting guard away. He recovered from the first obstruction and committed again. Dara intercepted the last movement. Hammer went down during the breakout and did not rise after rejecting an available exit for the lost capability. "Watch is using the center guard to buy gate time," Tess said as the representative stayed behind the machinery. "Watch is buying time," Tess said. "Take the space, not the bait." Tess drove the guard off the center lane. Watch shifted to preserve the delay, but Lio closed the opposite sides and removed the next pocket of cover. "Nowhere quiet left," Tess told him. Watch struck at her and turned for another position. Tess forced him into the open. He went down wounded, still trying to keep his body between the team and the west route. "Alive," Leo said as he took control. "Keep him alive." The guard who had covered Watch tried to reach the south door. Lio stopped him before he cleared the machinery, leaving one guard captured and breathing. Near the central frame, Tess neutralized the guard who tried to re-enter from the west. "West guard is down," she called. Lio answered from the east. Hammer's guard is down too. Gate reached the outer lane with the fourth guard beside him. Nessa followed far enough to keep pressure on the route, but her shoulder and the widening distance ended any chance of capture. "Gate is out with one guard," she said. "I kept him off the direct link." "Time?" "The window is closing now," Lio answered. Nessa had done enough. Gate could escape, but he could not reconnect with the reduced strike before the 6 hours ended. Outside, 5 operators maintained their false movements. "They are still disciplined," Lio said, "but they have no completed revision and no time to build one." "Tess, count the room," Dara said. Oleg captured, Watch wounded and captured, Hammer dead, 2 guards neutralized, 1 guard with Leo, 1 gone with Gate. The 4th, Acknowledgment, never completed. Last minutes passed with switching hall unfinished. The synchronized strike ended because the old plan had lost its unique capability, and the revised plan had never become binding. Gate remained free, and the local alternates still carried the practiced doctrine. Nessa sat against the west wall with her left arm close. Tess covered Watch and the captured guard. Leo stood near Dara without asking whether her hearing had returned. It had not. The left side held a permanent thin tone, while the right gave her voices without clean distance. Her field future had narrowed into a question no one could answer before dawn. Dara looked at Leo. "Your direction changed the outcome. You acted on it. That was the part I had to learn." Oleg breathed on the floor. Watch remained alive. Hammer did not. Gate was gone with the doctrine intact, but there would be no second strike tonight. Beyond the hall, the rail district quieted without becoming peaceful. Dara watched the first gray light settle over the steel and accepted the cost exactly as it was. The sky was not quiet. It simply had nothing left to warn her with.